Hey everybody, gather round. I'm here to give you anything you like. You want free college, energy, mortgages, whatever you like. You have come to the right place. Why? I'll tell you why.
Yours is the most revolutionary, shall we say. You want to cut $1 trillion in spending over how long?
Over 3 years. But the first year is $1 trillion, balanced budget in 3 years. So cut $1 trillion the first year.
Your money.
Who can take your money?
With a twinkle in their eye.
A twinkle in their eye.
Take it all away and give it to some other guy. The government.
The government.
The government can.
The problem we have is, I think the radicals have been in charge. The people who believe in spending and deficits don't matter and we can be any place in the world and you can print up money forever. So if you wanted entitlement spendings to go up or militarism expenditures to go up, the Congress just passed it. And they never had to worry about, collecting it in revenues. They say, well, we'll borrow it, and they borrowed a lot. But eventually, they had to print a lot.
Who can take your money?
Who can take your money?
With a twinkle in their eye.
A twinkle in their eye.
Take it all away and give it to some other guy. The government.
The government.
The government can.
The government can.
People are waking up. People in Washington, the bureaucrats and the other politicians, the other candidates running for this office. I think they're living in a different world.
That's interesting. What do you think should be the proper income tax rate?
Well, the best would be zero. I mean, we live most of our history with zero income tax, but you'd have to have...
Who can tax the sunrise?
Who can tax the sunrise?
Who can tax the trees?
Who can tax the trees?
Of energy.
So if somebody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum.
The EPA has now listed as harmful carbon dioxide. Utility companies will be forced to spend an initial outlay of $800 million to conform, and yet power plants supplied by General Electric, one of Barack Obama's biggest campaign contributors, have received an EPA waiver.
Let you run a business and collect up all the fees. The government.
The government.
Oh, the government can.
The government can.
Well, I think there are a lot of big problems and we can't ignore it, but I see the biggest problem is not admitting that the country's bankrupt. And if you don't admit that is the true problem, then you're not going to have it. You're going to have this bickering back and forth.
And the government can, cause they mix it up with lies and make it all taste good.
Make it all taste good.
The current candidates, as well as many in Washington, they sort of talk about it, but they talk around it. They talk about cuts. They talk about future cuts. And everything I've heard so far in Washington and from the other candidates has always been cuts in the future.
The government takes everything we make to pay for all of their solutions. Healthcare, climate change, pollution.
Nothing to do with capitalism. This is corporatism. The corporations, I agree with them. Corporations run things. The drug companies lobby us, the insurance companies lobby us, and the hospital management companies lobby us, the AMA lobby us, and that's all managed care. And we have a system where money and bigness influences the government. But that's corporatism. That's not capitalism. What we want are free market.
Throw away the Constitution.
I support Ron Paul because I believe he's the only candidate with the fortitude to actually stand by the Constitution.
I took an oath to support defend the Constitution, and he is the only elected representative that actually takes his oath seriously.
And who can give a bailout?
Who can give a bailout?
This. We can't do it. So this is much more serious than loosening up some credit. But this whole idea that you can loosen up credit and solve the problem by doing the very things that cause the trouble.
I think had President Bush and Secretary Paulson and Ben Bernanke not pushed for a TARP-type program, we were going to be in a free fall.
Tell us to behave.
Tell us to behave.
There is absolutely never a reason to give up 1 ounce of freedom for the sake of security. It won't work.
And make the founding fathers roll over in their grave. The government. The government. Oh, the government can.
The government.
basically even at 47% to 45%. Question, what's going on here? Why are you gaining such traction this year?
Well, because it's a good idea, and it's the American ideal. But I'm fascinated with your word unconventional. Isn't it strange that we can apply that term to freedom and liberty and the Constitution, limited government, and a balanced budget? You're proposing this unconventional idea of government. Well, I think you're right about it. Today, under today's circumstances, it has been unconventional. What we've had is unconventional with regards to our Constitution and the principles of liberty. So yes, people are waking up and they're saying, yeah, Ron Paul's right.
Their economics are fictitious. Soon we'll have to eat our dishes.
Been bad for over a decade. We've had no new jobs in the last decade, and we've had 30 million new people.
So we subsidize illegal immigration. We reward it by easy citizenship, either birthright or amnesty. But we force our states and our local communities to pay for the health care and pay for the education. Why wouldn't they bring their
family? The
family?
market is stronger than even the Federal Reserve and governments, because you can print and borrow and do all these things and tax, but eventually the debt is overwhelming. And yet,
you can be a failure in so many ways. And instead of getting fired, hey, we'll give ourselves a raise. The government, oh, the government can. And the government can, 'cause they make it up. Well, I think it all tastes good. And your Uncle Sam can, 'cause he mixes it. Well, Liza makes it all taste good.
Why are y'all treating people like this? This is America. Why are y'all treating people like this? Why are y'all gearing up like this is war? This is not war. Let's go, folks. We can. This is not war. Why are y'all acting like this? Nobody has guns. It takes a tough guy to act like this. Nobody's trying to hurt you guys. There are no bullets flying out here. There are no bullets flying. How tough are you? How tough are you? There's no honor in hurting unarmed civilians. So get no respect. What'd you see tonight that bothered you? I was here on October 5th. I saw them beating people, people that had nothing to do with anything, just grabbing people out the crowd. There's no honor in that. My mom, my father, everybody has served in Iraq, Afghanistan war. I did 14 months in Iraq. My father was in Afghanistan. My mother did a year in Iraq. We fought for this country. I don't come home. I'm in New York City. I am from New York City, and these cops are hurting people that I fought to protect. There's no reason for this. There's no honor in hurting unarmed civilians, and I won't let it happen. Have a good night.
And I feel so good, 'cause the government says I should.
The establishment called him extreme and unelectable. They said he was the wrong man for the job. It's why a young Texan named Ron Paul was one of only 4 congressmen to endorse Ronald Reagan's campaign for president, believing in Reagan's message of smaller government and lower taxes. One man has stood apart, stood strong and true, voting against every tax increase, every unbalanced budget, every time. Standing up to the Washington machine, guided by principle. Ron Paul, the one who will stop the spending, save the dollar, create jobs, bring peace, the one who will restore liberty.
We arrived in Vietnam in September the 14th.
We were fighting what was called the Viet Cong.
They broke through our lines and we had to go hand to hand with them.
I was actually one of the 9 out of 56 that came back after 1 whole year. And that's hard to forget.
We had 75 killed and 115 wounded.
Vietnam was hell.
We had never been thanked for our service. Never. Congressman Ron Paul got my medals for me and presented them to me. That was an awesome feeling.
People break down and cry because they're getting the medals that they finally deserved.
It takes a veteran to understand a veteran, and he is a veteran himself.
Ron Paul is a veteran's best friend.
He said, thank you for your service, and shook our hand and gave us a hug. That will always be there.
This message.
Dr. Ron Paul, more than 4,000 babies delivered. A man of faith, committed to protecting life.
This whole notion of life not being valuable just is something I was never able to accept. I happened to walked into an operating room where they were doing an abortion on a late pregnancy. They lifted out a small baby that was able to cry and breathe, and they put in a little bucket and put it in the corner of the room and pretended it wasn't there. I walked down the hallway and a baby was born early, slightly bigger than the baby that they just put in a bucket. They wanted to save this baby. So they might have had 10 doctors in there doing everything conceivable. Who are we to decide that we pick and throw one away and pick up and struggle to save the other ones? Unless we resolve this and understand that life is precious and we must protect life, we can't protect liberty.
I'm Ron Paul, and I approve this message.
And I feel so good 'cause the government says I should.